How do German universities decide if you get accepted? Over the last 2 years, I have talked with hundreds of international students, and yes, the confusion is real. But here's the good news. German university admission actually follows a clear structure. Yes, it's very different from the US, UK or India, but once you understand how the system works, your application becomes much easier to plan. A big myth that I have to bust right at the beginning is that you need a perfect GPA. And this is absolutely not true. Many programs in Germany will accept you as long as you meet the formal academic requirements. And this is especially true for programs with no admission restrictions. And this usually means if you meet the entry requirements, submit the correct documents, and apply on time, you usually get accepted. I've seen students get into German universities with grades as low as 65%. Of course, grades matter for competitive programs with limited spots. Medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, and sometimes psychology often require very strong grades. But for many other programs, especially with a smart application strategy, you don't need a perfect GPA. The second myth is that you need lots of extracurriculars, leadership experience, volunteering, or some amazing personal story. For many public bachelor's programs in Germany, this is not true. German admissions are usually not like US college admissions. In many cases, universities usually check formal requirements. Your school certificate, your grades, subject-specific requirements, language proof, documents and deadlines. But there are of course important exceptions. Some selective universities and programs, for example at TUM, might have aptitude assessment procedures. And this can be a motivation letter or essay and sometimes an interview. For creative programs like art, music design and so on, you might also need a portfolio, entrance exam or audition. And private universities and master's programs might look more at your CV, motivation letter or interview performance. Having some activity outside of your high school or university is nice, but for most bachelor's programs you don't need crazy extracurriculars. The third myth is that German university admission is basically random, like a lottery. And this is mostly false. German admissions usually follow clear, rule-based procedures. We are in Germany, we have rules for literally everything. Now there is something called the Losverfahren, which is a lottery procedure which is for leftover places at the very end of the process. But this is not the normal admission system, and you should never build your strategy around it. So with these myths out of the way, let's talk about the 4 main things German universities actually check when they evaluate your application. So number 1 is your academic qualifications. In Germany, this is called the Hochschulzugangsberechtigung. And this basically means, does your school leaving certificate qualify you to study at a German university? So depending on your country and schooling system, your diploma might give you direct access, subject restricted access, or you have to go to a Studienkolleg first. So for this you can use the DAAD admission database or eligibility checker to get a first idea. You can enter your country, your degree, your grades, and the website is going to tell you if you're actually eligible to study at a German university. And the second part of all of this is grade conversion. Germany uses a 1.0 to 4.0 grading scale. 1.0 is the best and 4.0 is the lowest passing grade. And one common method is the modified Bavarian formula. Sounds fancy, there are calculators online for this. But don't blindly trust them. These calculators can give you a rough estimate, but the official evaluation comes from Uni Assist, the university, or the responsible recognition authority. Now the second thing universities check is language proficiency. If the program is in English, you usually need an English certificate like IELTS, TOEFL or Cambridge. Many programs ask for around IELTS 6.0 or 6.5, but the exact score depends on the program. And very important, nowadays a lot of English taught programs have also started asking for German proficiency. So studying in Germany is not getting easier, it's actually getting more competitive with stricter admission requirements. Now, if the program is entirely in German, there might be less competition, but you usually need strong German skills. Common certificates are TestDaF, DSH, TELC, DSD, ÖSD, and in some cases Goethe certificates. So don't just ask, do I have B2 German? Ask which exact certificate does this exact program accept and by which deadline. And also if you apply for Studienkolleg, the preparatory course, German is still very important. Studienkolleg is usually taught in German. So for many of them you might need at least B1 or even B2 German. Now here is something many students misunderstand. Some universities offer conditional admission or preparatory language pathways, and that means you might get admitted under the condition that you still complete a language course or submit a certificate before a certain deadline. But this is not guaranteed. Some universities and programs allow it, others don't. In many cases, you need to submit a language certificate before the application deadline. So please don't assume that conditional admission is always possible. But learning German is one of the most important things you can do if you want to study, work, and live in Germany. Even if your degree is in English, German will make your daily life, internships, part-time jobs, and career opportunities much easier. So to get started, check out this video about the best way to learn German as a beginner. I also put a link to it in the video description. So the third aspect universities check is program-specific requirements. So every single degree in Germany can have its own rules on top. For engineering, you might need maths and physics in high school. Creative programs might require a portfolio or a specific entrance exam. So the university is not only asking, is your diploma accepted in Germany? They might also ask, does your previous education match the subject? So if you don't meet these specific requirements, you might need to go through Studienkolleg or, create a portfolio. Now, I already made a full video about Studienkolleg, so check that out if this applies to you. But this is why you should never assume that all German universities have the same rules. All the requirements are on the official university website. And many students don't know this, but you can always write an email directly to the university and simply ask. And the fourth thing you need to understand is the Numerus Clausus, the NC. And this is one of the most misunderstood things in German university admissions. Many students think the NC is a fixed national cutoff, but this is not really how it works. Usually, an NC means that a program has a limited number of spots. But when people talk about the NC, they usually mean the cutoff grade. So here you need to understand the difference between zulassungsbeschränkt and zulassungsfrei. Zulassungsbeschränkt means admission restricted. There are limited places, so if too many students apply, the university has to rank applications. In many cases, grades become very important here. So the better the grade, the higher the chances for admission when there is restricted admission. And zulassungsfrei means there is no admission restriction. But this doesn't mean there are no requirements. You still need to meet the academic, language, and document requirements. But if you meet those formal requirements and apply on time, your chances are not 100%, but they're usually much better. And these programs are easier to get into because they have no admission restriction. Now, even when a program has an NC, the NC is not fixed. It can change every semester depending on how many people apply, how strong these applications are, and how many places the university offers. So a specific program might have an NC of, let's say, 1.8 in Berlin, but the same subject can have an NC of 2.7 or no NC at all in a different city. So if your grades are not amazing, applying to less competitive universities can increase your chances a lot. Don't just apply to Munich, Berlin, Hamburg, Cologne because you know the city names. I also have videos on my channel about how to choose the right university and the right city. Now here's one important detail for non-EU students. In some restricted programs, international applicants compete in a separate quota. And that means the published NC from last year might not perfectly reflect your chances. So you can use it as a rough signal, but always check the rules for your application group. Now most international students apply either through Uni Assist or directly through the university's own portal. Uni Assist is used by many universities to pre-check international applications, but not all of them. The correct application path depends on the university, the program, and sometimes your nationality or previous education. And please take the document seriously. German universities are super strict. If something is missing, uploaded incorrectly, translated incorrectly, not certified properly, or submitted too late, your application can be easily rejected, even if you're academically qualified. I've heard many horror stories of students who messed this part up and they had to wait 1 year even though they were 100% eligible to study in Germany. And the common deadlines for university admission are the 15th of January for the summer semester and the 15th of July for the winter semester. But these are not universal. Please always check the exact program page. So the big question is, how can you improve your chances? So first, check your eligibility early. Estimate your German GPA early. Apply to multiple universities, ideally around 5 to 8 programs. And also consider including programs that have no admission restriction. Don't just apply to famous cities. There are many small cities that are hidden gems for students. And also check the exact language requirements and learn as much German as possible before coming to Germany. So I wish you the best for your application. And next, check out this video about the best way to learn German as a beginner. Love you and stay focused.